Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. This is our podcast at Absolute Trust Council, and I'm Kirsten Howe. And joining me today, my two associates, Jessica Colbert and Ariana Flynn. Today we have one of our, I think these are my most fun episodes personally, is when we can have some kind of celebrity gossipy kind of thing that ties into estate planning somehow, because they're fun. They're fun to talk about. And this is a case that's been in the news. I think it first came up like early in the year, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it because we had other guests scheduled, and also Gene Hackman died, and that took precedence in terms of our celebrity estate planning. But here we are. We're going to talk about San Diego Padres late owner Peter Seidler and some of the stuff that's happening in his estate. Ariana, you want to just give our listeners kind of the background of what's going on there?
Yeah, definitely. So there's some drama going on in San Diego right now, or should I say it's actually taking place in Travis County in Texas.
Right, it's in Texas probate court. Yeah.
So the San Diego Padres, MLB professional baseball team, the owner had passed away. His name was Peter Seidler. So his wife, and I don't know if this is pronounced correctly, Sheil Seidler, sued her two brothers-in-law, who were the trustees of Peter's trust, to prevent another brother from taking control over the team. So she argues, kind of the whole gamut: breaches of trust, fraud, conversion, acts of self-dealing, kind of throwing the book at them, stating that she should be the owner of the San Diego Padres because there was an alleged handwriting by Peter during his lifetime, listing Sheil as the owner, following after Sheil, then their children. But we don't know how legitimate this handwritten document is. On the flip side of that, the two brothers, Matthew and Robert, they argue that, the trust rules and the terms of the trust are pretty explicit. They allege that, the trust says that they are the trustees exclusively responsible for designating that next owner of the San Diego Padres, the control person, and they appointed the third brother as the control person, and that Sheil does not have any standing to contest the document, the trust documents. And so that's kind of the overall argument in a very condensed nutshell. I'm sure there's more to it than that we're missing, and a lot more details. But that's kind of it for the general picture there.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of, pleadings have been filed in this case since we first heard about it. That's not what we're here to talk about. Our audience doesn't want to hear what the pleadings say, because a lot of times that's very technical and procedural. I just want to clarify one thing. The issue is about who will be the control person of the Padres, not the owner of the Padres. And so Sheil is saying, "Oh, my husband wanted me to be in control of the San Diego Padres. Here's this handwritten note where he said that." And the brothers are saying, no. We're following the trust document, and we're going to appropriately select an owner. So that's the background. And Jessica, what do you see here as something worth pointing out to our audience who always wants to learn about estate planning?
Yeah, one thing that immediately jumps out is we're always talking about the issue of making sure that you pick the right person to be your trustee. And in a case like this, Peter probably thought that his brothers were a good choice, and maybe they were. We don't really know what the story is. But in a situation like this, it's a lot of family drama, and there's kind of a lot at stake. This might be a situation where we would suggest a disinterested trustee, someone who's not in the family, perhaps a professional, just to kind of avoid these sorts of conflicts.
Yeah, there's an argument definitely to be made for someone disinterested. Although then when you think about this particular asset, you just think, oh, you don't want some bank in charge. some
Padres.
bank trustee. Sorry, Wells Fargo, we love you, but I'm just saying, I don't know how you solve this problem. I don't know. Maybe a committee of trustees.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. So yeah, that is a very valid point. Picking the right trustee is so important. And you can't always predict who's going to turn out to be a good trustee. Ariana, why don't you talk about I'm going to talk about the business aspect of this. And then Ariana, I want you to talk about more like from your litigation background, which we always love to hear. So what I understand is Peter Seidler was not the 100% owner of the Padres. He owned an interest in the Padres. There are other owners. And when a business is owned by multiple owners, especially, a very valuable business owned by smart, wealthy people, they're going to have an agreement among the owners. And that agreement is going to say, what happens if an owner dies? And it probably says, how do we select who is the controlling person of this team? If we have 25 owners, we can only have one person in, sort of representing the team. So there's all of that, which kind of goes against Shiel's case. It just probably doesn't matter what Peter wrote down. I want my wife to be the controller. He probably can't do that. The business documents probably don't permit that. Again, and we are purely speculating. We haven't seen these documents. It's just, what we do know. And the last thing about that is, hang on, let me think of what I was going to say about that. Oh, and the last thing about that is, Major League Baseball itself controls what happens in Major League Baseball to a large extent. So there are probably rules about this. Perhaps Major League Baseball has to approve whoever they select as the controlling person. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that the rules of Major League Baseball ownership are intricate and beyond my comprehension. That's what I would just posit, that there probably is that also. So Peter doesn't just get to write down on a piece of paper, this is what I want. Okay, so that's enough for me. Ariana, but let's talk about that, that handwritten instrument. That is a pure estate planning issue.
Absolutely. And we all kind of, know the riskiness of the handwritten instruments, whether it's a trust amendment, a will. There are certain formalities that you have to follow. Anytime you see something that is handwritten, it just opens up that door to litigation and to speculation and to, well, did he really draft this? When did he draft it? Was he in his right mind? And it brings up so many questions than it does solve any answers. So it's really just opening up that door to just a plethora of litigation, which is the case here in this situation. It kind of emphasizes the importance of making sure that if you do want to have a amendment to your trust, to make sure that that's followed through the correct procedures legally, and working with a legal professional obviously is the best way to ensure that the document will be procedurally correct under, we're in California, so under California law. And so that's kind of the riskiness there whenever you see a handwritten document. That was the biggest thing in litigation. Anytime you see handwritten, always one of those.
The lawyers are rubbing their hands together.
Yeah.
We love that. Yeah. And so following, good practice and the formalities of the instruments and the formalities required by the probate code just kind of at least gets that issue off the table. Like, was this actually, is this a legitimate change? You still then will have the issue of, was she threatening him? How did she coerce him to do this? But at least the authenticity and the legally binding nature of it would be not in question, but now she's got that too. And so it's just a kind of a messy way to do it. Okay. Anybody else have any last issues that we didn't hit on here?
I just wanted to mention, because Mr. Seidler here did create an estate plan, and I'm sure his trust was pretty complicated, yet he still, didn't avoid litigation. And I'm sure that was probably one of his goals while he was creating the estate plan. So it's just kind of a PSA that even if you do create an estate plan, if it's not, solidified and nailed tight, it could still potentially be litigated in court too, on interpretation.
Right. And that's a really excellent point. And I'm just going to add, even if everything is done correctly and it looks like it's nailed down tight, you could still have litigation, right? Because litigation is started by people, and people do things that we can't predict. They aren't always reasonable. People are people. So
we don't know what they'll argue.
Exactly. Especially when there's, I'm sure, many hundreds of millions of dollars that we're talking about here. Anyway, okay. Thank you both. This was a fun episode. I hope you listeners at home enjoyed it as well. And we look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com/scheduling. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our next live episode. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcouncil.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.